The next lineup of Fireside Chats dwell on scaling leadership adaptability. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our speaker for this session, Harish Mariwala, founder and chairman Marico. Harsh is an Indian entrepreneur who is the founder and chairman of Marico, a Fortune India 500 company. He began his career in 1971 with Bombay Oil Industries, which was controlled by his family. In 1990, he founded Marico, a fast-moving consumer goods manufacturer and distributor, which now has operations in 25 countries across Asia and Africa. The session chair is Rekha Menon, Chairperson NASSCOM and Chairperson and Senior Managing Director, Accenture India. We're in a period of high uncertainty, and this requires leaders to constantly adapt and lead in this environment. This Fireside will explore leadership adaptability, building and sustaining the organization culture in such environments, and the fail-fast paradigm. It's over to you, Rekha.
Thank you, Shreya. Harsh, welcome to NASSCOM Technology and Leadership Forum. And I've really been looking forward to this conversation, as have been many others in the audience, many fans in the audience right now. For you, it's been really, if I look, an extraordinary journey from starting Marico in 1990 to today, where Marico touches the lives of 1 out of every 3rd Indian. Mm-hmm. Right. And there are many other achievements you have, but I want to focus the first part of my conversation really on your Marico journey.
Okay.
But first, about the book, my first question.
Thank you.
Harsh versus Harsh.
Yes.
Your name, Harsh, means joy.
Yes.
Right. And your book is Harsh Realities.
Yes.
Means something completely different. So was this just a play on your name, or were there really hard realities in your journey?
So, I'm glad you started with the book, because it's something which I want people to read. And, one thing I can tell all the viewers is that, I can take a bet based on whatever feedback I have got from those who have read the book, that, there is always some take-home value in the book. So all I can say is that if you're not happy, I'm willing to give you money back for your, if you're not happy with it.
I'm very confident.
That's a challenge given, because I've given it to students, I gave it to professionals, I gave it to entrepreneurs, and all across it's the same thing. Now, coming to the title of the book, what you're saying, it's a pun on my name, you rightly put it. And I like the name, it was suggested by somebody else. And I think the thinking was that, okay, it's not hunky-dory, any entrepreneur's journey. It is a lot of struggles. It is a lot of failures. And I think what I've tried to do in my book is talk openly about those failures. But more importantly than the failures, the learnings out of those failures are very crucial, because I think every person fails. I don't think there is a single entrepreneur in this world who has not failed. And unless you take risks, unless you experiment, unless you fail, you'll not learn. So I have a very, very strong belief that it's absolutely okay to fail. And you can't have that fear of failure haunting you. If you start having that fear of failure, then you stop experimenting and it'll impact your journey. And it's okay to fail. And out of every failure, I've analyzed the failure and applied it subsequently in my future journey. And it has actually paid off much more. So in a way, the book talks about my journey and difficulties I faced, the failures I faced. And I think that's why the name of the book, Harsh Realities, came in. And I must say the feedback about the name also has been very positive.
It's a very catchy name.
Yes.
But I actually absolutely agree with you. In fact, one of my mantras is take risks and don't be afraid to fail, because that's the only way you're going to learn. And failure is a crucible for learning. I mean, failures are always the best crucible for learning.
It's like I always say that, there is when a child learns to walk, not a single child can walk without falling. Multiple times the child will fall.
Right.
And that's a very good example, and ultimately the child learns to walk.
Correct.
So you have to view failure from that point of view, learning, and it's okay to fail.
Correct. I agree completely. Now I want you to step back to the start of your journey. You took a very bold step when you broke away from the family-run Bombay Oil Industries, right, to establish Marico.
Yeah.
take me through that. Where did you get that confidence from? How did you convince your family that was the right thing to do?
So I had to give you a background, Rekha, in terms of what I did prior to Marico, because unless you know the background, you will not understand why I did what I did. So I built the company virtually from zero base. It was an edible oil company. I converted that into branded consumer goods company, and we had 3 different profit centers: a chemicals business, a spice extract business, where all the produce of that plant was exported. And both the businesses were more B2B businesses. Mine was more a consumer-oriented business. And more importantly, many family members working in the company full time. So I had my father, 3 of my uncles. I was the first person from the next generation. By the time I spent some time, 4 of my cousins had joined business. And in an FMCG business or in any business, talent plays a very important role. And I was not able to attract talent because there's always a fear that what will happen when so many family members are actively involved in managing the business. How are the relationships? And so that was one big hurdle I was facing in terms of attracting talent. A few other hurdles were that, there was no way of allocating capital between different profit centers, and mine was a profitable business, and some other profit centers would lose money, and then the money would get sucked into some other profit centers. It was impossible for me to plan my future because I didn't know what kind of resources I would have in terms of my financial needs from a business point of view. So, I think that it was very frustrating to work in a organization which did not have any synergy. I was not allowed to also improve my image of the organization because then somebody else would say, no, it will. So I was not allowed to pay higher salaries because it would impact some other profit centers being a part of the same company. So I was like shackled from different angles. And the only way I thought I could do that was to break away from that and, take the business in a new company. And it was not a financial separation. And many people think it was a financial separation. It was a management separation where I didn't get anything extra in terms of my stake. My stake was just the same as it was in the earlier company, which meant that I had a 25% stake. My father and 3 brothers, 25% each. All I wanted freedom to do things my way. And I wanted freedom to allocate capital and expand and attract good talent. And I think that looking back, that has been the most important decision in my life. If I had not done that, I would have been struggling to manage family dynamics and, spend a lot of time in managing family issues. It took 2 to 3 years for me to convince the family. Right. But looking back, it was fully worth it because if I had picked up a fight with them, I would have still been fighting. And you've seen that many families go on fighting perpetually. I didn't want that to happen. I said, okay, worth spending and convincing them and arriving at a consensus. So it was a consensus-based decision. And as I said earlier, it's been the most important piece in my overall business journey.
Great. So far thinking well ahead, creating a separate identity, which is important. And definitely these are 2 very different businesses that you're talking about, FMCG versus commodity, very different markets, very different business models, very different talent that you have to attract, and very different financing opportunities.
Yeah.
So what was, if we fast forward to now where Marico is so very successful, what was the secret sauce that contributed to the success to the year? I had to ask you to I know it's been a long journey, but if I had to...
No, I think it's a very good question. And I think it's relevant for any entrepreneurs that what makes them or what will make them succeed in the marketplace. I would say 3 things. One is, how do you create a strong right to win? And when I say strong right to win is that how do you differentiate in the marketplace versus other players? So my whole hypothesis is to select portfolios where I can succeed. So first is portfolio choice. Mm-hmm. And in those portfolios, do I have a differentiated advantage through either innovation or through a pioneering move which I'm making? So if I look at my own portfolio of products or brands I have, in each of them, either I have a strong innovation which has backed me or I have been the first mover in the marketplace. And in most cases, I decided to pursue sectors or categories where I didn't have to fight very, very strong competition. the so-called blue ocean spaces where one could win, because many of the MNCs were not active in those spaces. So I said the hair oil is one space which is available to me. It's not dominated by, or there's no MNC presence, because it's hair oiling as a habit only exists in certain parts of the world, and they're not backing this category globally. So I selected those categories where they were not present, and more importantly, in those categories, created multiple innovations. So one is selecting the category, another is creating innovations on a perpetual basis, so that you're always ahead of your competition. And if you look at our portfolio of products, in almost 95% plus turnover, we are market leaders in the segment where we are present in. So, for example, we are present in anti-lice shampoo. It's a small segment compared to the shampoo segment, but there we are clear market leaders, because we saw that MNCs, being a small segment, they would not want to get into that. In fact, we acquired the Medicare brand from Procter & Gamble because it was too small for them. But in that segment where we are doing a turnover of maybe about, I don't even remember, 40 crores or so, we are clear market leaders with a very good profit margin. So selecting product portfolio and continuously innovating it. When we acquired Medicare, it was just a shampoo. We said that oiling is far more prevalent than shampoo in India. Can we launch Medicare anti-lice oil? Within 1 year of acquisition, we launched Medicare anti-lice oil, and our sales just doubled. Right. So what I'm trying to say, very, very strong consumer focus to understand what are the needs and can you exploit that through innovation and pioneering opportunity, and select portfolios where you have a strong right to win. To me, that was the first leg of where we are, what I did. The second was the most important thing is, for making that happen, you need very good quality talent, and more importantly, just not attracting talent, but how do you retain good talent? And that's where the culture plays a role. So I personally spent almost first 3 to 4 years of Marico's journey in building that culture. And I still feel that I'm very proud to build a culture at that time where culture was not looked at it seriously. Now, I think many organizations are looking at culture, talking of culture as a source of competitive advantage, culture, eat strategy for breakfast and things like that. But I did all that in the early 90s. In fact, I was just reading a book written by the Netflix promoter. And they are talking of the culture, and many of the things which they are talking about now, we did it 30 years back. Things like we didn't have authorization of expenses, self-authorization, things like no sick leave, no casual leave. If you're sick, we trust you, no muster in the organization. So we've done that in early 90s. And I think that has played a very important role in retaining talent. And the third thing which many entrepreneurs don't realize, and they think that they should only look at this subject when they are much larger, is the issue of governance. I think it's very important to follow the right compliances. And when I talk of governance, it is just not compliance. It is much more than that. It is actually looking at ensuring the organization's interests come first. So if I as a promoter, I have to wear the hat. If there's a conflict between my interests and the organization's interests, I always have to select the organization's interest first, and then only my interests come in. And the same thing can apply to a very good employee who was very good at some stage but started losing relevance. So do you reward loyalty, or do you look at the organization's needs? And I've always seen that the organization's needs should come first. So governance, pioneering stroke innovative approach to product portfolio selection, and talent and culture, I would say these three are the big pillars, at least for me.
I think they're very, very important pillars, because if we see what we're all discussing right now is exactly all of this. One, how do you find the right, when you're starting an organization or when you're growing an organization, which spaces can you occupy where there's nobody there, or you're number 1 or 2 in the market, and you can get to be number 1 or 2, because if you're just another me too, it's not going to give you that premium at all, right? Cool. Second, about how do you build innovation into the entire DNA of the organization. Yeah. And especially, we've been discussing this during this conference about how do we make sure that even the older organizations are continuing to stay innovative, because otherwise, like the innovator's dilemma, we all know that story, right? They don't, they are redundant after a while because your own success gets in the way. And then, of course, talent is a huge issue.
Yeah.
I could ask you questions on all three.
But just to add to what you're saying, I absolutely agree with you. I think innovation has to be on a perpetual basis. It cannot be just one off its type, because it's a matter of time. Others will copy you, or they'll start copying your innovations. So you have to create a culture of innovation, which is very important. That culture of innovation can only be built with very good talent, which is diverse, just not gender diversity, but diversity from all angles. And then create an environment where they are empowered, they are experimentative, they are not afraid to take risks, they are not afraid to fail. And the organizational role is not to punish failure. The moment I punish somebody for a failure, people stop taking this. So you need to create a culture of innovation where every person in the organization thinks innovation, just not the top management, or just not the marketing head or the R&D head. Every person in the organization should start thinking of innovation. That you can only talk about, make it happen if you have culture of innovation, which is backed by the top management, which goes on reinforcing the need to innovate on a perpetual basis.
Completely agree. I mean, innovation is not something that happens in the R&D. It's not something which is the job of just the CEO, the chief strategy officer. It has to be right across the organization, and it has to be fostered. You also, in addition, because you believe so strongly in innovation, also set up the Innovation Foundation, right?
Yes.
Working towards nurturing innovation in India.
Yes.
And when I read that about 680 entrepreneurs have benefited from it. So just tell me a little more about that.
So Marico Innovation Foundation was set up in the year 2003. It's long, almost 18, 19 years now. We set it up. And it's the whole objective of setting it up was to drive innovation in India. I realized at that time that innovation is going to play a very crucial role in India's journey amongst entrepreneurs if we have to succeed as a country. And entrepreneurs, I strongly believe, add a lot of wealth to all the stakeholders. And we need innovation also in social sectors, whether it's agriculture or healthcare or education. I think innovation can help us take a huge leap in terms of way forward, because our challenge is huge. We can't establish so many schools. Can you virtually, and this is where all the IT can come in, can you use the information technology to actually spread education across India without the need for a physical space? And innovation can play a very important. So that belief it started with, and over a period of time, it has evolved. And we have a very independent Marico Innovation Governing Council. It was headed by, for first 17 years, headed by Dr. Mashilkar. And now he just stepped down, and Amit Chandra is now heading Innovation Fund, and comprising of very good talent. And they help us take newer initiatives. We have Marico Innovation Awards. We also help, on an average, we help up 10 to 15 organizations to scale up. We have awarded organizations like Rivigo, Gunj, and also in social spaces, So we believe that it's something which we have to continue doing it. Our job is to ensure that people think innovation, and over a period of time, the attitude to innovation at a CEO level has changed dramatically. It is on top of CEO's agenda, innovation. If you ask any CEO, innovation is almost there in the top 2-3 priorities.
Absolutely. And you couldn't be more right, because India has some very large problems that we can only solve innovating and collaborating.
We saw what happened in mobile, we forgot about all the phones with the landlines and all, and what it has done to us, amazing.
Right. No, and plus what this pandemic has done is actually accelerated the adoption of not just mobile, but all digital devices.
Absolutely.
There's a huge room for innovating in those spaces. And my strong belief definitely is that we can use this to scale and make an impact in the social sector.
We are going to see a lot of benefit of this digital impetus because of pandemic, especially on healthcare, education. It's going to be huge because people are now used to, being digitally savvy, even housewives.
So digital has changed consumer behavior, has changed reach, has changed how we live, how we work, how we play.
Yeah.
And therefore, that brings me to two related questions, because you said health, and then I'll have to come back to culture. I have so many questions to ask you. Was that you also set up a healthcare foundation, right?
Yes.
So talk to me a little about that.
So this happened about 7 or 8 years back. The the Innovation Foundation, Marico Innovation Foundation, is a part of CSR of Marico, and I wanted something on my personal side, what I call PSR, which is personal social responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm backing two causes, and that's something which I'm passionate about. And I don't believe in just donating money or spending money. I have to be personally involved in whatever I do. It is active giving, as they call it, where you spend 10, 20, 30% of your time in that particular subject. So you have to be passionate about that subject. You're saying, okay, you enjoy working in that. And I realized that there was a big gap in the area of mental health. So we started our Mariwala Health Initiative, which is mainly looking at mental health. The first initiative we took was tie-up with TIS, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and we are running their call center, which gives you free advice. Anybody can call up without revealing their identity. Either call up or send a mail, and it will be treated completely confidentially. Nobody will know. And we have something like 18 people, full-time people working on this. We support that. And it has saved, I was told it has saved many lives also. We have done many initiatives in this, including doing research. We've just come out with a suicide research report. We've just come out with the mental health, how mental health organizations can actually play a very important role, whether leadership styles or what is impacting productivity or asking work-life balance or giving flexibility or working from home. All these issues are impacting mental health. And our biggest initiative is to helping other mental health organizations which are doing very good work in marginalized communities in interior areas. So as of now, we are supporting, I think, 25 organizations by giving them grants, and not only just giving them grants, but also helping them scale up and, spending time with them in terms of if they have a certain particular need, then we involve anybody else who can help them in that journey. And I think that will grow. So it's a grant making body where, you can apply for grants if you are doing very good mental health work. And then, it will get evaluated, and we go on supporting such organizations and also rope in other people who are also in the space,
I mean, fabulous. So making an impact, making a difference. I love the term personal social responsibility, and not just giving a grant, but getting involved to make sure that there is an impact. And what the area that you've chosen is a very important area. Mental health is something which was rather taboo a few years ago. Nobody talked about mental health.
Yeah.
It's now coming out into the open, and the last 2 years have actually accelerated the need for mental health support. I mean, we've seen it. There's a lot more issues. So I'm very, very glad that you're working in this space. Now I want to come back to what we were talking about, which was about culture and about leadership. Right?
So one more thing I forgot. One is mental health and personal social responsibility. Another is I also work with entrepreneurs, and about 850 entrepreneurs you mentioned. That comes under Ascent. That's again my personal social responsibility, where I spend a lot of time.
Which is away from which is different from the
Marico Innovation Foundation. Both these are from my personal, and there I work with 850 entrepreneurs, and it's a peer learning platform where they learn from each other. And then in addition to that, we have many programs of selecting mentors. We've started a coaching program. We have many webinars. We have huddle sessions. We have conclaves. And we have very good speakers in our conclaves. We had this year, I think, we had Kiran Mazumdar, we had Nandan Nilekani, we had Uday Kotak, Sajan Jindal. No, we have, and very, very good speakers in the IT space also. So I think I'm very happy with the way it's shaping up, and I would want more and more entrepreneurs to join. So any entrepreneurs it's almost free. I get a commitment fee of 2,500 rupees per year, just to ensure that people don't take it lightly. So that's the only charge, but they have to be selected. So if any entrepreneur is willing to, all over India now, it's a virtual thing. We started in Bombay, then went to Chennai. And I think if they want, then they can log on to www.ascentfoundation.in. And we are more keen, Rekha, to get more women entrepreneurs. I don't know why, but we had earlier, prior to pandemic, we had 10% of women entrepreneurs as part of Ascent journey, and now it's fallen to 7%. I really don't know why. So I would want more and more women entrepreneurs to join the Ascent journey.
So this is great call out for all viewers. Here's another opportunity. And Harsh, this is absolutely fabulous what you're talking about, because we need more entrepreneurs in India of all types, not just the big well-funded startups, but at every scale and every level. And speaking on women, you said they've dropped out because women participation in the labor force has really been hit during the pandemic because they've had to do double duty, right?
Correct.
They've had to take care of home, they've had to take care of children.
Sure.
And as we are seeing the same thing across, except that, in technology for us as an industry, we've been luckier that way. And we've focused, and we should have a separate conversation on the things that we've done as an industry to make sure that women stay in the workforce and, grow and thrive.
Yeah.
But that's a conversation for another day. I wanted to talk about your leadership lessons, right? One of the things you talk about extensively is the importance of listening as a leader.
Yes.
In India, there's a social hierarchy. There's a hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
And leaders may find it difficult to ask the most junior person for feedback. And second, the most junior person may be fearful of giving honest feedback to a leader.
Yes. Yeah.
What's your approach?
So I would just try to differentiate listening versus openness. I think what you're referring to listening, I would call it openness to get critique, to accept critique. And I think the openness comes in with a very strong desire to learn. If I, as a top person or any person, has that high degree of openness to learn, and if I meet anybody in the organization, may it be at the lowest level, it could be somebody working in our factory, or it could be in our field force, distributors field force, and if I ask questions, tell me how to do this or teach me how to do this, automatically, you're passing on a very strong message that you want to learn. I think the starting point is that passing on that message and keeping that person at a very comfortable level. So you have to forget your ego. You can't say, and I strongly feel that even just not the way you say it, but the way you dress also plays an important role. So from day one, we made it very clear in our organization that no ties, no suits, because again, that brings in some sort of a barrier, he's very senior. No, I want everybody to be similar dressed. And people have to forget egos, and people have to go on asking for critique. Even at the end of the meeting or during the meeting, I may say something, but if I tell everybody, please, I want critique, please tell me how the meeting went, what do you think went positively, what do you think more importantly negatively, what is there to learn, then people will be encouraged to open out. And then is when you ask some person, and sometimes you don't agree also with the views of that. But if I ridicule that feedback, or if I just don't take it, don't hear it, then that person will not give me feedback. But even if I don't agree with that feedback and tell that person that, thank you for giving me this feedback, for this reason, I don't think I agree with your view, but thank you for doing that, and I would always welcome you to give that feedback in future. Then that person would definitely come back to me, because he's gone back with a very positive mindset that this person is willing to listen. I think that passing on such hints, messages, very simple to do it, but a lot of people don't do it. And, if you think that you know it all, and if you are not willing to listen to others, people will just shut up. And that happens in many organizations. I've seen that they don't have the courage to open to the top because the top is not willing to listen. They have the best of ideas. So how do you, in a large organization, how do you capture ideas? It can only come from diverse views at different levels. And, we also have an open house where every year we have open house sessions. Anybody can talk to the management, ask any awkward questions. If you don't want to reveal your identity, you can just write down the questions, put it in a box, and that will get answered. But I think that promotes openness, So I think openness is very, very important. We call each other by first name. Still, everybody calls me by first name. And there is no hesitation. We also have an open office where people can see what I am doing. And people are not that secretary culture or, that hierarchy of going through your secretary. If I want somebody to talk to some other function, and normally you have to talk to the boss and then you go down. We encourage direct interactions. Networking is very, very important, and dialogues are very important. You can contact anybody in the organization directly and not go through those defined routes where you want information. Because the whole organization is built on a very high degree of trust. If I go to somebody down the line, I'm not spying. I want some genuine information, and that person's boss should realize that I'm just cutting short unnecessary bureaucracy to get that information.
God. So there's so many nuggets here that I'm picking up. The leader doesn't, ego comes in the way. They have to let their ego go. There has to be a high degree of openness and trust in the organization. The culture has to be one where people are not penalized for speaking up, really,
Yes.
and giving feedback, whether you agree with it or not. Absolutely fabulous. Now we're running out of time, but because we are at a technology and leadership forum, I want to ask a tech-related question. We're seeing that every company is a technology company now, right? That's what's happening, and all organizations are at different stages and paths.
Yes.
So, what was your learning and experience in going digital? Did it raise your innovation quotient? Did it?
So you're absolutely right. Every company, every business will have digital challenges, and you can't say I will not look at digital. You have to first, the mindset within an organization is to be digital is an area of opportunity and not a threat. If you don't attack digital proactively, it can become a threat. But if you look at digital from an opportunistic point of view and over-invest in that ahead of the curve, then it can be an opportunity. And for that to happen, depending again on the kind of business one is in, one would have to prioritize. Where can digital make a big difference? In our case, being an FMCG company, clearly digital, very important in the area of marketing, because the whole media spends have shifted from mass media like press, television to digital media, social media, influencers, and whatever other. So digital shift to marketing was one. Then in marketing and in sales also, how can we improve the sales force productivity? How can we digitize? And especially in the pandemic, how do we reach to retailers directly without going to them? So digital connections. So we prioritize sales, marketing, digital, and supply chain. Sales, marketing, and supply chain high on priority. And then you have to have some roadmap. Okay, in this, whatever, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, we will do these projects. At least that's what we did. I don't know what others have done. But identify the projects and track those projects and, go after it and ensure that they happen in the right way. And one other thing which we realized was that if you want to drive digital, you have to select some individuals who do not have any escape buttons. When I'm saying escape button, normally the tendency is to say that in addition to their current role, I will ask them to do digital. No. If I want to sell my products through e-commerce, I have to have a different mindset to selling it. So the exclusive person in selling e-commerce is a must. And that person also, logically these days, the youngsters are far more digital savvy than you and me. So man it with very young talent who understand, the shift towards digital and remove escape buttons. And we have acquired some D2C brands, direct to consumer brands, which are we acquired Beardo and we acquired Just Herbs, and 2-3 of our brands are, and we man that in a different office location because we don't want the FMCG culture to influence the digital D2C businesses, because it's a very different way of marketing the products or selling the products. So I think you have to remove escape buttons and ensure that the current whatever cultural things need not get into the new one. You need a different culture to drive a digital journey.
Well, I could continue this conversation, but we're at the top of the hour. So I want to thank you for this very rich conversation. There are so many threads and so many nuggets, so many different threads that we spoke about, and so many nuggets for our audience to take away, for me to take away. So thank you very much, and all the very best as you move forward. We're looking forward to more innovation and more impact in society. With that, thank you, Harsh.
Thank you, Rekha. Great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Another power-packed session. Thank you, Harsh and Rekha. As leaders, we need to adapt, embrace, and evolve with the change. Unless we take risks, experiments, and fail, we've not learned. Like Harsh said, every failure is an opportunity to analyze and implement the learning subsequently for the future and to create a strong right to win. It's important to select portfolios where we can succeed and create innovation on a perpetual basis to stay ahead of the competition. And for all of us, it's time to look at Rekha's mantra to take risks and not be afraid to fail, because that's the only way we're going to learn.